Welcome back to another episode of the Experts in Fire podcast. I'm your host, Mike Vennard, and with me today is Randy Mowry. Today's episode is Gas Fire Pits, the Importance of Media. Let's get into it. Hey, Randy, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you today?
I'm awesome, brother. The sun is shining. Spring is upon us.
It is here.
Monday we had 2 inches of snow, and today 70.
That's right. Well, that's how we roll in Michigan.
That's right. That is right. It's what we do. Brother, today we are talking about our favorite gas fire pits. We sell a lot of them, and man, it's just always fun talking with our clients about the vision they have for backyards. And you know, the more we've worked with landscape pros and landscape architects, it gets even more fun, because you're at the true visionary point. You know, typically if you're on the phone with a homeowner, it's something they want to fit in the backyard. They're talking a lot of colors with you and things of that nature, and it's like a dream session. And then all of a sudden you get with architects and landscape pros, and they're going, man, we need this, we need this. This is what the whole thing's going to look like. And it puts us in the position to go, here, let me take you over to this piece over here or that piece over there to satisfy your needs. So one of the things we get asked a lot about, though, and a lot of people think is really insignificant, and that is the media that goes on said gas fire pit. So we're going to take an entire episode today, Randy, and I got to say, brother, all props to you. Randy was like, we have to talk about media, and he even laid out a bunch of stuff from the questions he gets when he's on the phone. So Randy, really appreciate the work you've put into this one, but we're going to walk through media today for our clients and just discuss why it is important and why they need to see it as important.
No, that's great. It's a great topic to cover. I don't know that we've ever covered it. So it's good timing. It's the season for it. And we do get a lot of questions on this, Mike, as well, as far as, you know, what type, where does it go, things of that nature. So yeah, let's roll right on into it.
Let's start with what is media. I keep saying media, and people are probably thinking, you know, CNN, Fox News. What are we talking about here? You know?
Right? Well, they have the press over there, or what?
Wait, you guys are throwing the media on your fire pits? How does that work? No. Let's start there, brother. What is media?
Media is the material that is going to be going into the fire pit, and that could be tempered glass, lava rock, some type of ceramic stone that's rated for fire. It's going on top of your burner itself. But more importantly, when it comes to safety, the media itself is what allows that fire pit burner, that gas, distribute evenly through it. That's kind of the main hub, area, whether you're having a flat pan, but the media is going on top of that burner, Mike.
Yeah, so, I mean, let's think about it for a second. We have a fire pit, and then we have media on top of the burner itself. So what you're saying, Randy, is it helps distribute the flames. It gives them a little more natural look instead of that gas stove in your house look. Yeah, that's what I always call it.
Right, yeah, so with a fire pit burner, especially like when you have a pan on it, Mike, you don't want to operate the burner without any type of media. There's a couple things that could happen. The pan could warp. It's just going to get super hot because there's nothing inside of that. So you're just heating up that stainless steel pan. It could warp. If you have electronic ignition system or push button battery operated ignition system or something like that, you could prematurely and just wear that thing out or possibly overheat the mechanism there without any type of media on it. And when I say tempered glass and lava rock and things like that, what I do want folks to understand, especially from a safety aspect, these materials have to be rated for fire. We're not going to go to like the local craft store and grab some really cool glass beads because we put them in our vases inside the house and put some, fake plants in them. That type of glass is not rated for fire. It's not tempered glass typically. Same thing with like lava rock. You're not going to just grab some lava rock that maybe is not rated for fire pits and it just for landscaping. Those pieces would, when they heat up, they could potentially like crack and split, and there could be some hazardous and safety issues there. So we don't want to grab stuff from a craft store. We want to make sure that we're not using, like, if somebody has property and they're grabbing when I say river rock or something like that, or we're not grabbing rocks out of the river and putting them in there. There's some challenges there because it's going to overheat.
What is it that causes that, Randy?
What's going to happen is, because that is more of a, like, especially like the river rock, it's a natural stone. So when that thing heats up, if it's porous enough with water built up in it, it is going to heat up to a certain point, and then it's going to split apart and kind of break apart. And those pieces are going to go flying, essentially. We have like what we call like river rock stones on our site and things like that. Those are actually ceramic materials. It's like, think of like a ceramic log that you put in your gas fireplace. Okay, it's the same type of material. So these are rated for fire. They're rated to take the heat. And those are the types of materials that you want to use. The glass is tempered glass. So it's rated, they actually go through a process to temper it and to actually treat it so that it's rated for heat. So we can put it in our fire pits. I use lava rock and fire glass in mine, kind of a mixture. Some people will mix them up. But we definitely want to make sure that it's rated for fire.
That's a great point. We just ran into a scenario, and please listen to this story here. We deal with this even at the manufacturer level. We just had a manufacturer who had to recall a lot of lava rock because a lot of times when we sell their pans and burners, they want to control the media for that reason. And they ran into a situation where some normal grade lava rock got into their distribution mix. And so they had a handle on it. They had one complaint. They got a hold of us and all their other retailers to let them know, hey, from this date to this date. And so we walked through that. And that's just our experience coming to all of our listeners, letting you know, just don't do it. It's hot when it happens, and it can hurt somebody. Hit them in the eye, hit them. Even we had one person years and years ago called in. It hit him in the arm, and it wasn't pretty. You know, he was okay, but just stay away from it. You have fire-related questions, and we have answers. You can email us your questions at podcast@woodlanddirect.com or give us a call at 586-221-3638. We would love to be able to answer them right here on the Experts in Fire podcast. So, Randy, once they know, okay, here I'm going to use the correct stuff, and we sell it all, you mentioned that the media itself helps to distribute the gas. How does that work? Because you're saying if I turn it on without media, it's going to make the pan hot. But if I put, let's just use lava rock in there, that lava rock is going to protect the pan from the heat?
Correct. Yeah. So what happens is once that burner is in place and you've got that thing fired up and you put your media on top of it, the gas is actually flowing through, your pockets of air within inside of your media itself. So what's happening is it's helping that flame distribute out further through your media. So in essence, then what's happening is it's actually taking some of that heat off of the pan itself. If you just left the pan, and radiating that vertically up, north of your fire pit, beyond your media and up through and it helps keep a nice temperature rating levels on the pan itself, so we don't overheat our electronic ignition system, so we don't overheat our push button ignition system. And of course, it also helps from warping that pan itself. Because now what we're doing is instead of centralizing that heat directly right on that stainless steel pan, now what we're doing is we're distributing it through the media. The gas is coming through the media. So if you have like a 12-inch burner, for example, and let's say that it's a 24-inch pan, well, now we're kind of moving that gas is flowing through. Think of like your burner on your stove. Your burner is coming up. And just by putting a pan on top of your stove, you will see how the flame kind of distributes across your pan further. Similarities there when you put that media on top of the burner itself.
We should have a section called the Science Corner, because the science behind it is you have to have oxygen in order to have ignition, right? They're the three pieces that you need in order to have fire. And it's the reason that you can have gas in a pipe and that pipe is not going to start on fire is because that pipe pushes the gas out, mixes with oxygen, and then you have a flame, right? So that media sits on top and the gas has to push past the media and get to the oxygen above before you can have ignition, and up to the flame as well, right? So you have to have that initial starting point. And it's so cool to me that it actually cools the pan, or helps keep the pan cool. It doesn't cool it, but it helps keep it cool, because it just places a layer, another, couple inches that the gas has to travel before it can actually ignite.
Because we're taking that flame away from the pan itself, because without the media, you immediately have flame. And then so once you put that media on, just like you said, now we've got to push that gas through the media before it becomes a flame. And it's distributing it throughout your fire pit burner. So it's you have essentially, kind of like you said, you have like this air gap between your lava rock and your stainless steel pan now. And all of our flame is on top, north of our media.
So one of the things that to keep in mind for our pros out there who are listening, when it comes to warranty and you burn without media, you lose your warranty. For a lot of the burners that we sell, there's a lifetime warranty on the burner, but not on the pan and not on the ignition system. So these are the things that manufacturers especially are looking at going, I can give a lifetime on the burner itself, but when it comes to the pan and to the ignition system, there are certain things you have to do because they can, like you said, warp or burn out. And now we're talking replacement parts and things of that nature. So keep that in mind. If you're a pro, make sure you let your homeowners know. Make sure the media is in place before you burn on this thing, because it is super valuable just in the science. Yes, there is science behind a fire pit. So, Randy, anything else when we talk about what is media? I think I mentioned fireballs, but even fireballs are going to go on top of some type of media that's giving you that 1 to 2 inches of lift off of the pan, correct?
Correct. Your fireballs are similar to another option that people would use would be like the, logs and things like that. But there's always going to be some type of base of media that's going to be placed on top of your fire pit burner.
So, Randy, we've talked a lot about what the media is. I think in terms of all of the different styles of fire pit burners that we offer, we should move into where does the media go? We know what the media is. Now let's talk about where's it go?
Yeah, absolutely. Another great question. Media, like we talked about, the lava rock, the fire glass, the media itself is placed on the fire pit burner. Okay. And if you're using like a flat pan or what they call a bowl pan that has a lip, your burner typically may sit like a 1/2 inch above that pan. And then that pan may be, a 1/2 inch to a 1 inch, and that pan may be 2 inches deep. And when I say pan, it's like a stainless steel pan that has like possibly a stainless steel lip on it, or it's a stainless steel flat pan or aluminum pan that is below the burner. Okay. Then the burner sit above that flat pan or bowl pan. Okay. So ideally, we're just going to use 2 inches as a round number here. So when we're putting media on, because there are different types of burners, we also want to be cautious of that. Okay, because we do want to cover the burners themselves, Mike, but that is going to be dependent on the type of burner. So we'll start with the standard, which a lot of people are aware of, which is your simple stainless steel. We'll just use round burner that has drilled holes in it. Okay, a 2-inch pan. So with this type of scenario, what you're going to do is essentially you're going to fill your media up to the burner. Once we get to the burner itself now, we want 1 to 2 inches on top, no more than 2 inches of media on top of the burner itself. Now, this also depends and varies based on the fuel that you're using as well. If you're using propane, we're going to want in that 1 inch area. If you're using fire glass, we want to make sure we're 1/2 inch to 1 inch material. We don't want to use the small pieces of like 1/4 inch glass with propane. Propane, we've talked about it in different episodes. Propane is heavier than air, so it sinks and pools. We don't want to smother it. If you put too much media on top of it, and this is whether it's propane or natural gas, if you pile way too much media on it, then that gas is not going to flow like we were talking about, where the gas is moving up through our media before we get that combustion and that flame at the top.
Let's jump on that real fast, Randy. It is back to science corner, right? With larger objects, you have larger gaps of air, and that allows the gas to flow through. As you begin to, and you can think of rocks in a glass. We do a time training over on the sales side when, how to manage your time, and it puts rocks in a glass. And then you think of sand in a glass. You're going to fit way more sand in the glass because the particles are smaller. When we talk about media, the smaller the pieces, the more compact they're going to be. So those air gaps in between may not even exist. They're going to be way smaller or may not exist. So you, in essence, have put a plate on top, and now the gas is going to find the easiest way to travel, which could be down. And that's what we want to avoid. We don't want gas traveling downward into the cavity itself, because if ignition happens down there, that's a bad scenario as well.
Correct. That is absolutely correct. Exactly. So with the stainless steel tube burner systems, we want that 1 to 2 inches of material. It's a conversation that we have with folks based on what fuel they're using, whether it's propane or natural gas, and helping guide them in the right media for their burner. Okay. Then you get into stainless steel and brass burners that have what they call like a vertical port on them. Now we go from maybe like this 2-inch that in a lot of cases overall from the bottom of the pan to the tops of these ports, maybe 3 inches. Now with a vertical tube system, a port system, these types of burners are shooting the gas out further. They're actually pulling oxygen right at the port. They're getting higher and taller flames. With that type of burner, Mike, we don't want to cover the ports on these burners whatsoever. Also, we want to be cautious of what material we're using as well. We don't want something that's too small that could get lodged in that port if it gets moved around. But we're only going right to the port opening. And you're going to see it. You're going to see the tips of those ports with your media, whether it doesn't matter if you're using fiberglass or lava rock. We need that gas to escape right at that because it's a very unique design and how they have those made.
Important thing to know, depending on the burner style that you buy, how you place your media is going to really be dependent upon that. And we have manufacturers who, some of those ports have holes drilled in them so that you have to have the entire port visible so that oxygen can flow into the port itself. That's where they're doing their air mixing. And then we have other vendors who have the air mixer down below. You're able to cover those ports a little more than what you do with that one. And then, of course, the stainless burner, as you said, Randy, is going to be different as well.
Kind of getting back to your question is when you mentioned like the fireballs and things like that, cannonballs.
Yes.
Now that we've built and I'm going to use lava rock right now. You can do it with fire glass as well. I've done it myself. Now that we have our base on top of our burner, and or whether using a standard tube style burner or a burner that has like the vertical ports. Now that we have our base, our media on top of it, now we can also add cannonballs if we want. You can stack cannonballs on top of this media with lava rock, for example, in any fashion you want, or just kind of lay them across that. You can do logs. You can lay logs. You can TP logs, so that if you want to get, a better look, it's really going to be, entire up to you. But now we have a base, we can add some of these different elements to it.
All right, Randy, so we know where the media goes. It's very important to know the burner, the style of burner that we have, so we know how far up on the burner it can go, if it can cover the burner completely. But let's talk about what type should I use? What type of media should I use?
Oh, no, that's another really good question that we get based on what they're doing. And I always gear it towards what are they going after? What type of look are they going after? Example would be if maybe we're building a fire pit for somebody. We'll use that first. They're building a fire pit for a cabin, Moose Lodge. They're building a big round fire pit. So typically in a scenario like that, it's pretty simple. They want that campfire feel. They want big flame. So we're going to use a specific burner to give them that big flame, lava rock and logs, because that's the look they're going after. Maybe somebody is putting a whole new pool in and they want to do their fire pit by the pool, and They just want something that they can just set over there, but that looks good. They want more of a contemporary look. Then I would probably recommend Fire Glass, because Fire Glass, it's a color. You can get blues to blacks to clears, so it brings a real contemporary pop to it. There's different pieces. You can use like a smooth Fire Glass. That's currently what I have. And it gives you kind of a rolling flame. It kind of rolls around the glass. That air comes around. Then you have that flame that slowly moves across the glass. Or you can do cut glass. Cut glass, because it's all irregular, because it's actually kind of it has all these rough edges. You're going to get more of a kind of erratic style flame off of that. There's a little bit of the visual that you have to kind of imagine too, of what it's going to look like. Like I said, it's just really working with the client and figuring out where it's going, how they want it to look, what type of look are they going for, and also what style of fire pit as well. We have fire pits that kind of look like wood. Sometimes maybe that's not going to look good with fire glass, and it looks better with lava rock from an aesthetic standpoint overall. So there's some different things there as well, Mike.
We have a lot of options. I think of the river stones. You mentioned don't go down to the river and grab river stones. But we do have river stones that can be put into a fire pit. So we have a lot of options that could really match just about any style. And again, we're up against Pinterest and Instagram and places like that where people will call and say, "Hey, I saw this." And we might not have exactly that, but we definitely have what's going to keep you safe, and we have direct relationships with all these manufacturers to be able to find what you're looking for if we don't have it represented on our website. So I think that's a solid point, Randy. The sky's the limit.
It really is, because going back to the question of what type should I use, there are just the glass itself. There's cut glass, quarter, half, 1-inch pieces, cut round, smooth, beads, like jelly bean looking types. And then into the lava rock itself, you have your standard lava rock, which is the chunks. They could be 1 to 2 to 4-inch pieces. And then they have rolled lava rock. So it's a tumbled lava rock. They take it and they tumble it, and it actually looks like a stone. It's like a black or gray stone, the tumbled. And then you get into like the ceramic stones, like you're talking about. The river rock is actually a ceramic stone. It's designed for fire. Then you have the ceramic stones, the ceramic spheres, the balls. I mean, you could really jazz up a fireplace however really you wanted to. I mean, there's a lot of different options out there.
That's great, Randy. So in this episode, we've talked a lot just about media, but what I really want to stress is the importance of media and the science behind why you need to have media on top of that pan. Super important, super valuable, not just valuable, but safe. There are safety reasons. And even when our manufacturers have these burners of theirs tested, they're tested with media. That's why they send the media with the unit itself, typically a bag of lava rock, so that people know and understand. And to our pros out there, if you just check the manual, say you've bought something already, check the manual. It'll be in the manual and let you know that, hey, you need to have this much lava rock on there or media on there, or you shouldn't cover the ports too far, or, I mean, all of that stuff is laid out in the manuals. Is that correct, Randy?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only, everybody thinks of media from the aesthetic value of the media when they're shopping, but it is really more about the safety and keeping not only the burner working. You mentioned warranty. It's also keeping all of that warranty for you as a homeowner, making sure that it's operating properly. It's just like somebody putting a fireplace in their house. They want to make sure that it's, everything is working properly for their warranty, installed properly. We want to do the same thing with the fire pits outside and follow all of the manufacturer recommendations for safety first, because that is super important. And then also for the warranty for the client.
Well, Randy, I feel like we've covered just about everything we can on media. What do you think? Any last thoughts?
Media. I think we've covered everything on media. And media is not the people that roll up in their van with a big antenna on top. It is media for your fire pit.
See, so now folks can have a good feeling when they hear the word media from now on.
Right.
I love it. Well, Randy,
We want them to think of when they say media. Oh man, Woodland Direct. I need some lava rock.
Boy, we're gonna sell a lot of lava rock because that seems to be on a lot of people's minds nowadays. But Randy, as always, brother, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Thank you.
And hanging out with us here. Your expertise are always so well received. If you're out there and you're listening, you send a question in, you're going to get a response from us soon. And for everyone else who's listening, please don't hesitate. Send your questions over. If you think we could have done a better job, covered something differently, we're open. This is how we learn, and we look forward and crave your feedback. So send it over to us, and we'll either talk about it here on the show, or we'll get to you in the background via email or phone call, so we can answer your question and help you keep moving forward into yet another beautiful spring. So Randy, once again, thanks for being here, and everyone else, we appreciate you listening, and we look forward to talking to you the next time. Join us next time for tips to help your client choose the right gas fire pit. We'll see you then.